had an opening dig for her because I was one of the Sunday school teachers when she was in charge of Sunday school. And if we had an unruly kid, we would tell them we're sending them to the enforcer. Nina, right? And we had a lot of them over the years. I met Dan about 1967 through a thing we had here called Christian Endeavor. And I went over to the east side to meet over there with a group from our church and a group from their church. And it was a very nice experience, and it grew. Very good. And that's how I first met Dan. And I became friends with him very early on. Reverend Erickson, when he was very ill, the person that he recommended the church looking at to be the pastor was Dan Cox. And what a great suggestion that was, and what a great move it was. We planned a church, which used to be in the city. It was moving to Catonsville. People felt that we ought to have a Catonsville location. And Dan was in charge of that. He had, I think, the last wedding he had was, Joyce, correct me, is it Bud and Linda Hannah? And you were the first one here? Anyhow, wasn't the opposite way. Maybe it was the opposite way. But he met with all the young people. He was great friends with them. He knew how to counsel them. He knew how to direct them and lead them. He was a great leader. He became a very close friend to me and my brother and to our families. He started a couple outreaches in the church, which were very, very important. We had a Christmas outreach. We still have it. We formed a Christian Assistance Committee. We still have it, where we help people who are less fortunate. And then back then we had a visitation committee where we would go visit shut-ins or people in the hospital who needed a friendship or something like that. And we would do stuff like that. And Dan had set all that up because of his caring for everybody. He cared for everybody. Don't care who you were, he cared for them. He would meet with anybody, and he would sit down and he would counsel anybody. Dan guided me through a lot of years, and my brother. We were fatherless, and we really were very close to Dan, and he basically helped us through a lot of things over our lives. So, trying to think here, he always called my brother his brother, and Fred really was like that with Dan. And Fred did a lot of things with Dan and for Dan. He had a, what's that called, an espionage group. Who it was me and my mother. We both worked at St. Agnes Hospital. My mother was a telephone operator. I worked in X-ray. And we had the duty. My mother, if she heard of anybody coming into the hospital, it was from church, she had to call him and tell him so he could be sure to visit him right away. If I was in X-ray and I saw an X-rayed somebody that was hurt or needed help, it was from church, he would be there. So Dan was right on top of being sure that he took care of the people in the church. So he was not only our pastor. If you knew Dan, he was a friend. Dan was your friend. He was a Christian friend. He was a pastor that guided you. And he was the one that led me to accepting Christ when I was about 18 years old. So Captain Erickson or Reverend Erickson started the trip. Dan finished the trip. And I'll never forget him for that. Let's see here. One thing that he did like to do was eat. And look at Pat, she's hanging her head. And my brother and I used to go crabbing all the time. And we would have crabs, so we would invite them over. Well, we were jealous of Dan because he had his own personal picker. Pat would pick the crabs for him. And he would eat everything that she could pick. Right, Pat? But he loved to eat crabs and he loved food. What I can say is he was a concern for everybody. He was available whenever you wanted him. One time I can remember I was playing softball. And you play softball, you have your uniform, your cleats, and you're dirty and muddy. And I went by the house. I forget I had to take him something. And he said to me, he said, George, Bessie Toadman, people who have been here a long while will recognize that name, had passed away. And he says, I'm going to the viewing, come with me. And I said, Dan, I can't go to a viewing like this. Look at me. I'm filthy. I got a uniform on. He says, George, the Lord does not care how you're dressed. You're going with me. And I went. And that's the way he was. The church growth was fantastic under his leadership. And he was a true Christian example to every person. And I miss him.